is because I stopped adding value to other people's lives. And if I stop adding value to other people's lives, I deserve to live a life that doesn't add value. And the only way I can get out of that is to add value. Help as many people get what they want. I'll get what I want. That's a byproduct. My success is a byproduct of other people's success. I don't want to lose, because second place is just the first of the losers. I don't want to be second place. I want to win. I have one life. Okay, and there's a saying, champions behave like champions before they're champions. Before I was successful, I had the mindset of a successful person, even before my bank account illustrated it.
Hello and welcome to the Real Success Show. I'm your host, Candice Mama. Have you ever been at a point in your life that you just feel like, Candice, I cannot go further than today. I cannot rebuild from this point. I am just ready to throw in the towel. Then today's episode is for you. I am speaking to the $1 million marketer himself, my co-host on the Real Success Summit, Sajen Thathiah. Saj is so much more than just my clowning buddy or my DJ on the Real Success. He has also got a phenomenal story that is so inspiring. So before we jump into that conversation, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, guys. Subscribe. And without further ado, here's Saj. Saj, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Real Success Show.
Candice, it's a pleasure, but you know that I get paid to be here, so it's okay. I should thank you and everyone else behind the Real Success show, because what could I be doing right now? Watching House of Cards and Netflix, but I'm here getting paid to talk about stuff that I don't know because I didn't get the questions beforehand. And if you're listening to this, just know that whatever was going to happen today is not scripted, and you're going to look at us as if we are complete whack jobs. But I was going to say well done on the show, because I've been listening to all the episodes and it's just incredible, all the stories and the people that have come, like Billy, Lindsay. And I was actually surprised because Lindsay was introduced as just Lindsay. So I was like, I know what her surname is, her last name is, so that was a bit of a surprise. So I was thinking maybe I should just be introduced as Saj, get the whole Madonna thing going on. So, formerly known as Sajen Thathiah, Saj.
My gosh, Saj. I mean, I haven't even said anything since I've introduced you, and I love that, because it actually plays into the dynamic we have anyway. Like, this is who Saj is, guys. This is not, when you see him on the Real Success Summit, he's not putting on a show. This is 100% who you are. And so what I really want to know, Saj, is have you always been like, the family jokester? Have you always been the prankster amongst your friends?
I have. So I've done some really ridiculous stuff growing up. In actual fact, I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. And the reason was because I saw Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey, and I thought Jim Carrey was just incredible, and how he made people laugh or being silly. And I kind of carried that theme throughout my entire childhood, to the point where I did some silly things. Like on Christmas, I went and got empty boxes and I wrapped them up and I put them under the Christmas tree, like big empty boxes. And my family, my mom, my dad, all thought that I was spoiling them with these big Christmas presents. And then they opened it, it was just empty boxes. And then the one year I wrapped gift wrapping, I wrapped it up and I gave that as a present. So they opened up the gift wrap and there was gift wrap in it. And I said, well, this is going to help you for next year's Christmas, because you always run out of gift wrap. And it went with me till varsity, and even at university when I was in third year. And I always played pranks on the first year students. And I was standing outside one of the lecture halls, lecture rooms, and it was in the K block. And the students were lined up, all waiting for business practice in first year. And I went past and I said, what are you guys waiting outside here for? They're sort of waiting for Mr. Mattia because they've got business. And I said, well, he doesn't teach here. He teaches in G block. This is K101. You need to go to G101. And they all ran to the other side of the campus, to the engineering department, to G101. And as they left, the professor came back, went into the class, came out and said, did you see where any of the students went? I was like, I didn't see any students. So it's I've always gotten into trouble for doing some silly stuff. And Brian would know it also. Like, Brian tells me that I've got to remind people that I'm actually pulling a prank on them, because sometimes I pull a prank and then I leave it 2 or 3 days and I forget about it, and people are stressing about stuff that actually isn't even true. So it's I'm working on it. I'm working on it to be better as a prankster and a joker.
No, but like, what's the motivation behind that, Saj? Is it like to get people's reactions? Is it because you just love like making life a little less serious? Like, what goes through your mind as I don't want to say commit these pranks, but some of them I feel like it's like committing these pranks. You're not just pulling a prank.
Candice, if you look like at the psychological side of it, I'm a hurt little boy doing these things for attention of other people. And that's a joke. I do it because it's fun. I do it because it's fun, and I love to make. And the thing is that it's like a pattern disruptor. Like, people get so stuck in negativity and doing this and task and to-do lists and action plans and this system and that system, that they never take time out just to be silly. And I think that when you look back at our lives and you say, like, are we going to look back and regret the times that nobody looks back and says, I should have been more serious in life. They look back and said, I should have been more playful. I should have had more fun. And I'm not saying that people need to give up everything and just be a prankster and walk around like Leon Schuster. For the international audience, I'm trying to think of who would, like Candid Camera or America's Funniest Home Videos, or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that people should do that, but there needs to be a certain level of humor involved, just to break the pattern disruption, or just to disrupt the pattern, sorry.
And when things happen in your life that aren't ideal, or they are difficult or disappointing, how do you deal with it? Because sometimes I find that people who are comedic are actually pretty serious behind closed doors. Are you the same?
Yeah. Well, it's the first thing. If I have a setback, the first place I go to is Woolworths, which is like Marks and Spencer for those who are international. And I go and buy myself a large tub of ice cream, tin roof, which is almond and caramel. And I get into the loosest pajamas that I have. I have this Batman pajamas. And I get into bed and I put on Netflix and I sit there and I cry for a little bit. So that's how I get. And that we joke about it, and some people are laughing. I don't actually do that. I used to go and buy pizza and sit and watch Rocky 3. That was actually how I would get over stuff. But the older I get when things become a setback, I ask myself one question: how does this serve me? How is this meant to make me better in what I'm doing? Because the truth of the matter is that these are just events. And as Jack Canfield, puts in his equation, is that E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. So we're all going to get faced with events, whether you are a janitor or whether you are a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. We're all going to be faced with events. It's the way that we respond to it that determines the outcome. And the people who are much more successful, much more happier, respond in a different way than people who aren't. And what we've got to understand is that if we look at our problems and we're grateful of having these problems because they serve us, we change the chemistry within our brain, and we don't view the problem with the same mindset that it was used to create it. We view the problem in a mindset that we can use to solve it and move past it. And as John DeMartini says, it is not in the way, it is on the way. So all I have is one question: how does it serve me?
That is a powerful question. And Saj, you weren't always on the side of the equation, right? You weren't always in the space. You weren't always around, self-help gurus that we get to work with on a regular basis. You wanted to actually become a millionaire by the age of 30. And you actually, in many ways, achieved it to a certain degree. Tell us what that led to and how you actually got to that point in your life.
So when I grew up, I felt that, my dad was very stingy. So it was very difficult to get money from him. In actual fact, it was easier for me to go into the garden and get blood out of the rocks than it was to get money from him. But My mom was very generous, but I grew up with this void that I didn't have money. I didn't have, and I attached my worth to my net worth, my personal worth to my net worth. And I always chased everything in pursuit of making money. And many jobs that I had done, didn't really make me happy. And I started various businesses. In actual fact, when I had been in university, I'd probably spent about 6-7 years at university. I didn't want to leave university because as much as I wanted to make money, I was also terrified of working, partly because I'm very lazy. And I started different business ventures, and none of them really took off. I was a photographer, I was a filmmaker, I was a designer, I was doing marketing for a magazine. I was a salesperson. I was an electrical engineer. I was a video store attendant. I used to try and sell video cassettes. There were so many things that I'd done growing up. I was actually, and in South Africa, this never happens because it happens in the States, but I was one of those goofy kids who actually believed that if I went and built a lemonade stand, that people were actually going to stop and buy lemonade. I never sold a single cup of lemonade because the market here is not like that. Because firstly, nobody drinks lemonade. I don't know a single person who actually drinks lemonade. And secondly, who's going to stop and buy lemonade from an 8-year-old child? Okay, because like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to trust food from a child because children don't wash their hands. I see them running around in my estates. Their mask is on the back of their head. So I'm not going to, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. And also kids are very scary because, like, let's put it this way, like when you're watching a horror movie and there's an adult ghost, it's fine. It's an adult ghost. But when it's a kid ghost, that's next level because kids, when they're alive, they don't care. So imagine what happens when they're dead and they can run through walls. So I see how that can fail as with a lemonade stand. And then I started working on this concept with a business partner about helping kids understand the property market, not necessarily like Monopoly, because Monopoly was just about deal making and negotiating. And the game was to help kids to buy property and pay it off by getting rental income. And also mitigating the risks. So things like if you buy a property and there's two risks that happen. There is electricity and there's water. Okay, so if you own a property and it's a rental property, you're renting out to people, then if they have to pay you for the amount of electricity and water that they use, more often than not, people default on that. So homeowners actually lose money because of the money that's owed to them because they have to foot the bill because it's in their name, the property's still in their name. So how do you mitigate that? You put in an electricity meter that the tenant has to buy electricity for themselves, and you put in a water meter. So these are kind of things that we were teaching children to mitigate using property as the vehicle, because in every situation that we have, like if you're driving, how do you mitigate the risk of you getting seriously injured when you drive? You put a safety belt on. Okay, so in every single situation in life, there are things that you can do to mitigate the risk, to get the risk as low as possible. Because, if we look at successful people, there's the things that they do. Firstly, they don't only look to win. Okay, successful people don't only look to win; they look at how not to lose, and I think that's great. Like if you can, it's okay to go and make $1 million. Okay. But if you don't know how you're not going to lose $1 million, you're going to lose it because people go up and down, up and down, up and down. So how do you help children to understand that it's not only about winning, but it's about learning how not to lose? How do you mitigate those risks? And there was an opportunity to go and pitch for funding for a product. And I applied to go and do this presentation. It was like Shark Tank. I was in front of 300 people. And as I was walking onto stage, I said a prayer and I said, God, I know you got my back, but could you please send the spirit of Steve Jobs down? Because if anyone asks me what's the best business book to ever read, it's the Steve Jobs book, because you'll never learn more about business than from what happened in somebody's life. You read about Jeff Bezos, you read about Elon Musk, you read about the stuff that you go through, because when you read about the books of people who are highly successful, like Bill Gates and so on, you'll understand that by the time you get to the end of the book, that 80% of their book was actually about how they failed. It wasn't about how they succeed. And people look at it and say, well, they're lucky or they've got a lucky break. No, luck doesn't exist. It's all about balance, okay? The universe is looking to bring balance to it. Everything is sacred geometry. So if you go out and you do something and it fails, okay, that means that you only have one try at it. Now you can't build a percentage on that. It's 100% failure. If you do it again and you fail, if you do it again and you fail, and you do it the fourth time and you succeed, that means that you weren't lucky. You've got a 25% success rate on the attempts that you're doing. But in that 25% success, that's 1 out of 4, you've learned 3 things that don't work. So the next time you do it, you're not going with the knowledge of only what worked. You're going with the knowledge of what didn't work. Okay. So coming back now to this presentation, I walked on the stage and I won. I won the funding. And the reason why I won the funding was because I knew my numbers. I had a file, I had customer reviews, I had what was to improve the game, I had how much the market was willing to pay for the game. So I knew how much, if the market was going to pay a certain amount of money, then I knew how much my production cost was in order to make a profit of that. I never studied business a day in my life. I hold no qualification in business. So if you're listening to this and you go, oh yeah, how do I work out profit margins and all this stuff? You lose enough money to understand what profit and what loss is, okay? If you're losing money, profit is the opposite of what you're doing at the moment. So I got the funding, went into production. We started going to all these expos and it got picked up by a large corporation and they wanted to put 1 million units into production. And that was my Apple. That was that was like my Apple, my equivalent to Steve Jobs and his journey. And when we signed the deal, things started going sour. And that's the thing, is like when money gets involved, money doesn't make people bad. Money just shows that people were bad all along and they were hiding it because they didn't have any money. Money is an amplifier of who you are. If you're a giving person, if you're a charitable person, you get more money, you're going to be even more charitable. If you're a selfish person, you get more money, you're going to be even more selfish. Okay, and that's how the company started falling apart when things were being used and moved around and they weren't discussed with shareholders and so on. And eventually, the only way for people to actually make money off this and fill their pockets was to get rid of me, because I wasn't in it for the money. And it's a silly thing to say because I should have been in it for the money. And that's also a dumb thing to say. Don't ever say, I'm not in it for the money. If you're not in it for the money, then don't charge, because it's not a job. It's a favor. Okay. So once that happened, I was devastated and I was tricked also because I was very green. I wasn't a business student. I never studied as my first business. I worked with people who had built multiple businesses before. So they knew the tricks. I didn't. And they used that to their advantage. But it taught me a lesson, because when I look back and say, yeah, it might have cost me R1 million, okay, but maybe that lesson that cost me R1 million was there to serve me, to help me to not lose $1 million. And that's why I look at it and say, but at the time, I couldn't see it like that. At the time, I was distraught. I was lying on the couch the entire day, watching House of Cards, eating KFC wings for breakfast, lunch, and supper, having Cocoa Pops and cereal, at midnight because I couldn't sleep. And I eventually went to the Robin Banks Mind Power, and I was dragged to Robin Banks Mind Power. In actual fact, I didn't want to go to the event because I didn't believe in personal development. I thought this all brainwashing schemes and scams and all this stuff. And I actually used to call him Phony Robbins until I met him, because he was like the Tony Robbins, African equivalent to Tony Robbins. So he's Phony Robbins. And where the day that I saw him go on stage and I saw that people were changing just by the use of his words was the day that I had this realization that what had happened to me set me up in order to help that to not happen to other people. And that was my penance to lay the foundation for me to progress. You know, we got to have the penance for the progression. So, and then I decided I want to become a speaker. So I went out, I did videos, I put the suit on, I added a little bit of gruff to my voice. Hey guys, welcome to my video. And I pretended to be the speaker. In actual fact, I used to sit and I used to watch these speakers. I used to actually Google top motivational speakers, and people like Justin Cohen would come up on YouTube. And I'd watch and I'd make notes and I'd go and practice, and I'll be like this mixture between Robin Banks and Justin Cohen and that speaker and this speaker. And it was okay. It started me off in the foundation, but it only took me so far, because you know, you can model other people, and it's great to model other people. You know, it's like Picasso says, good artists copy, great artists steal. And you don't think about stealing, you think about is liberating the ideas from other people. So I then started to work with others and started to add my own authenticity, become my authentic in the way that I presented and the things that I was doing. I was very serious when I was started off as a speaker. Didn't have much humor in it, and I thought because people weren't going to laugh at my jokes. And the day that I actually said that, well, if they don't laugh at my jokes, and they're not my audience, and they're not my dream customer, because I'm never going to help them, because I can't help somebody if I'm faking it. You know, they say fake it till you make it. No, don't fake it till you make it. You work hard and you fail, and then you be able to do it. Okay. But always say yes and then learn how to do it. That's also another thing, that like, say yes. So if somebody comes up to you and says, can you do this? And I used to work for South African tourism, actually, in the media center. We're doing press releases, and they asked me, can you do this? And I said, yes, of course I can do this. I didn't know how to do this. I went on the internet, I researched how to do this. Oh, can you do energy audits? Because you apply for this program. Yes, I could do energy audits. When I researched how did you do energy audits? Everything I can learn, okay, but it can only take me so far. In actual fact, those things that I was doing were just bandages on a wound that needed stitches, okay. And the only way that you're ever going to get the stitches is to be real. So I became a speaker, but the gap that I saw in the market was that speakers did not know how to reach their ideal clients in the most effective way. They were coming off back of magazines, TV commercials, radio interviews, but they had not embraced online. So that was where I was like, I need to learn online. I need to master, I need to work with people who understand online, and I need to use that to help speakers. And in turn, by helping them, they've got to help me fast track my speaking career. So I always look at it as like Prometheus. Prometheus stole the fire from the gods and gave it to man. I'm like the Prometheus of marketing. I took all this fire and I gave it to these speakers. So when a speaker who was had years of experience and had all the contacts and knew the event industry, all that stuff, when I helped them to fill a venue, they gave me a spot on stage. I know all the people who started off at the same time as me to becoming a speaker. I don't know any of them anymore because none of them became a speaker. And a lot of people looked at me with jealousy. A lot of people said, you're too young or you're not experienced. How did you get in this showcase and this stage and so on? You've only been doing it for a year. And I look at that and say, you know, it's all about leveraging. You leverage other people's success. You read The Art of War and understand that you never go into a territory without a Sherpa. Most people want to be their own Sherpa. You know, if you want to be your own Sherpa and climb Mount Everest, I'll never see you again because you're going to die. So, and that's how businesses operate. And because most people, unfortunately, run businesses from the ego. And the ego tells them, you shouldn't ask for help, because if you ask for help, then you're weak. And if you're weak, you're not going to be a businessman. I think the true weakness is not asking for help. When you understand that you need help from other people in order to succeed, that's a strength. So yeah, I was distraught about what happened to me. And now I it's I don't want to boast, but wealth's my highest value. I have investments and shares, I trade, I do all this stuff. And the funny thing is, the more money I make, the less I need the money. It's just, I'm the most simple person. Like for me, in actual fact, I don't even own a car. Most people don't know this. I don't own a car, all right? Because I don't need to have a car. I can Uber to places, and I can sit in the back seat, and I can work at the same time. And yeah, you might thinking, oh, but it's cheap, you're a speaker. I'll Uber Black, okay? You get a Mercedes or BMW to come pick me up and take me to events. I'm sitting in the back seat, leather seats, air conditioned. I don't have to worry about traffic. I don't have to hoot to other people and try and drive and all that stuff and swear at people, because I'm mitigating the risk of going to a venue late and so on, and taking that pressure on. I'm not there to be a driver. My life is not about being a driver. I'm there to be a speaker. So I need to be as comfortable as possible to give my best performance as a speaker. So yeah, and it's like,
wow.
You know, my shorts have got holes in it. I wear the same flip-flops that I had 5 years ago. And it's not because I don't like to spend money. I spend money on very expensive coaching and mentoring, upwards of $10,000. So I do spend money, but I spend money in the places that are aligned to what serves me. My highest value is not clothes. I'm the least fashionable person in the world. Okay, ask anyone in the team, ask any of my friends, and you see Saj walking with shorts and a shirt, those colors don't match. Okay, walking up with a mustard color shorts and a pink t-shirt, unfortunately, I know it's not going to think, but it's comfortable. So yeah, it's just about being authentic.
I love it. You touched on so many things there, Saj. It felt like honestly being in a masterclass. And firstly, I didn't know you didn't have a car, because I literally don't drive either. It's just not a high value for me. I just prefer.
Okay, I lie. My wife does. My wife has a car. She has a luxury car. So if I do need to drive, then I will use her car. I will use my wife's car.
I know it's an Audi. It's an Audi. I know.
Yeah, yeah. I did have a BMW, but I gave it to my mom because I didn't use it. So I did have cars, but I'm not a car enthusiast. If we can give me a Formula One car,
I wanted to say.
then maybe that would be cool. But yeah, it's just.
If it's not up there in your agenda pool, then it's just not necessary. I agree. Yeah. I'm completely that way inclined, except everything else you said after that. I was like, no. When you were like the clothes and everything, I was like, yeah, no, I can't.
But that's your values. That's your values. If you look at it like, even though fashion might not be a highest value, there's something in your values that fashion supports.
Yeah.
So confidence or perception or something like that. It's supported by that. And it's look, I'm going on stage in a few days time. Okay, am I going to walk onto stage with the wrong color clothes and old flops? No, I'm not. Okay, I'm going to wear an expensive suit with expensive shoes, expensive shirt, because I know that my audience deserves that of me. Okay, so it's not that I don't, but on the average day, I'm not going to try and live up to something if I'm not in that situation, or if I'm not going to speak on stage.
And you were speaking also about, I think it was more the idea of failing forward, right? Or fail it, because you were saying don't fake it till you make it. And in my head, I was like, so fail it until you make it. Like you've got to fail until you make it. And I think the one thing I really want to touch on, Saj, is with the idea that you actually brought value. You looked at the speaking space, not from where most speakers and where most entertainers, I'd say, look at entertainment or speaking, and saying like, I've got this great talent, right? Because talent is not enough. Where you could have just said, I've got this talent, I've got this, passion, this should propel me to success. But we all know that's not the case. What was it to you that you were like, because Saj is the $1 million marketer, guys. I didn't mention it in the intro, but I've always called you the $1 million marketer since we met. And what made you realize that if I want to actually be on these big stages, I've got to give before expecting anything in return?
There's a very interesting quote, which I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm going to bring up now to tell you what it is. There we go. There we go. You can have, there we go. It is a Zig Ziglar quote that says, you can have everything in life if you will just help enough other people get what they want. So that's how I think, like, what's the problem in the market? And the thing is that, like, most people, it's like I say when I coach my students, I'm like, don't believe your own BS, don't believe your own bullshit, because you can convince yourself to the nth degree that what you're doing and you're solving a problem in the market, and that problem might not exist. It might exist for you, but you're not your avatar. So when I looked at it and said, how do I leverage? And the thing is that, there's a saying that failure is a stepping stone to success. And, or the road of success is littered in failure. And it's true. But also, there are people who have succeeded that you want to be at that level. And Tony Robbins says, if you want to succeed, study success. So yes, we can fail, but don't make failure. Most people never leave the failed zone. Okay. It's like the friend zone. It's like, some people, you merely adopted the failed zone. I was born in it, molded by it. I only saw success when I was a man. But I digress. You've got to get to a point where you look back and say, okay, I failed. I've learned what doesn't work. How am I going to implement what does work? Because, as Einstein says, doing the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's what most entrepreneurs do, and they think that they're failing forward. No, they're not failing forward because they're not failing at new things. They're failing at the same thing over and over and over again, and they're actually just going around in circles and doing a failure U-turn the entire time. And then when they look back in 5 years and go, I thought I was supposed to fail my way to the top. But if you're not failing with new things every day, if you're failing with the same thing over and over again over there, you're never going to move forward. So, and that's why you have a mentor. That's why you have coaches, have go-to people, and you don't. And the thing is that your mentors don't have to be alive, and you don't have to personally know your mentors. Warren Buffett is Richard Harrington's mentor. Richard never met Warren Buffett. Okay, Steve Jobs is my mentor. I've never met Steve. Steve is dead. Okay, his principles and philosophies are still very much alive because when you have this vision and mission and value, it lasts long after you disappear from the planet. But each and every one of us has a mentor who we don't know because we learn from what happened in their life. That's why the best business books, like I said, are the biographies and autobiographies. So who's a mentor that you have that you've never met before?
Oh, I've got so many. I've got Oprah, I've got Graham Norton. I think I always take it from people who I think Dave Letterman, Dave Chappelle, all of them are people who I think are such great conversationalists. And when they interview, it never sounds like an interview. It just sounds like a great conversation. And so I learned a lot of my own interviewing style from all of them, because as you said, right, you emulate and you learn and you study and you read their failures. And you realize that you learn so much, from people's failures than you ever could from their successes, which is incredible, right? Yeah. So, Saj, if you wrote a book about your life.
Well, just the one thing with Dave Chappelle, Dave Chappelle is an anomaly because in a world that we live in that's so rife with cancel culture, Dave Chappelle has still managed to come back in the biggest possible way. It is crazy. And you think about, you look at Dave Chappelle and you go, how is Dave Chappelle so successful with the comedy that he delivers and the things that he says? And he's like fireproof to cancel culture. So it also, a lot of people have stopped trying to pursue authenticity because they run the risk of being canceled or being put into a box or failing or whatever. Dave Chappelle is an example that you just have to be you and you'll make it. And we shouldn't be surprised because in 2006, fun fact, we're on the 10th of November right now. yesterday was the 9th of November. It is this time, 9th of November in 2016, Donald Trump won the election in America. If I'm not mistaken, he won the election. And Donald Trump, the man said the most disgusting things, and he still became the president. So, and he was himself. He never tried to change, never tried to be presidential. And that's another thing, is that you don't have to like the people that you learn from.
Yeah.
In actual fact, you can hate people and still learn from them. But the moment you stop learning from somebody because of your emotions to them is the day that you're only going to pick and choose what works for you and not what serves you. Okay, because you're thinking what serves your ego rather than what serves you authentically. So, like criticism, you want to give somebody criticism and they want you to give them feedback when you're raving about them, when you're blowing smoke out their ass, when you're saying all the great stuff, then they want you around. But the moment you give some feedback that maybe it's not the way that maybe you could do better, then they hate you. Okay, because there's so much emotion and ego attached to the words that come out of other people's mouths.
And I love that you just highlighted that, Saj, which is the authenticity, which is exactly why I love Dave Chappelle. I think, firstly, the fact that he had so much conviction to walk away from $50 million. I mean, hello. But also, he just has so much conviction in everything he does. And speaking about authenticity, authenticity can lead to very slow growth, right? When the trends of the time are like, get naked on Instagram or do this or do that. And
that didn't work out for me. I got naked like 10 times on Instagram. I didn't get a single like on this post.
Oh my gosh, stay clowning.
So and then I ate these things for the dishwashing pods. I ate that to try and go viral. That didn't work out. What else did I do? I put the filter on with the ears and my tongue came out and my nose. No, I never did that. In actual fact, I'm gonna be a little bit controversial here, but no self-respecting man should ever use that dog or kitty filter on a phone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's not great. No one should. No one human.
No one should.
It's awful. But no, coming back to that authenticity and growth, Saj, so if you are someone who is authentic, you have to accept the reality that your growth is going to take a little longer than a lot of other people, only because it's going to take people time to adjust to you as an individual, right? And so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the progression? I mean, you're incredibly successful now, but like in my mind, I can already picture where you're going. How do you deal with that progression being a little slower, even though it should be a lot larger than what it is?
Well, I think it's like what Richard Harrington talks about this in his presentation when Jeff Bezos, who's got the most maniacal laugh in the entire world. I don't know how he does it. So, but anyways, Jeff Bezos asked Warren Buffett, like, your principles of investing is so simple. Why isn't everybody copying it? And Warren Buffett said, because nobody wants to get rich slowly. And it's, who are you competing against? I have students who start a program and then say to me, Saj, I'm falling behind. I'm like, falling behind with who? Oh, with everyone else. I said, did you sign up for the program for everybody else? Did you sign up for yourself? No, I signed up for myself. Well, then you're falling behind you and you are competing against you. And if you is at a certain point, you're not falling behind. You're at where you need to be because that's where you are. Okay. So yes, it's going to take longer. And the best things in life take a long time to build. Okay. And that's like, you're not, the stupid saying. Okay. And if you're listening to this or watching this, it probably already popped in your head. Rome wasn't built in a day. Okay. Yeah, I hate that saying. It's so dumb because we don't know. Okay. Rome wasn't built in a day. Tell me how long it took to build Rome. Okay. Because I want a guide, like give me a yardstick. Because I know that, okay, I might not be a millionaire today. How long did Rome take? It took 1,000 days. Okay, I'm using 1,000 days. But nobody says that. Like nobody tells me. So that's why I don't like that saying. But a lot of people are going to dislike you. And the reason why they dislike you is because there's something about you that reminds them about something that they dislike within themselves. And when I was growing up, when I was struggling as an entrepreneur, and a lot of people told me I was wasting my time, I was lazy, I was stupid, I was all these things, and I should get a 9-to-5 job. I should give up my dreams of being an entrepreneur because they're never going to come real. And a lot of people wanted me to fail. And when I didn't, and when you see, I look at on Instagram now, and I've got closest, some of the people who I grew up with that I've known for 20 years. I was like, what is this person up to on Instagram? And I go and check. They're not even following me anymore. They unfollowed me. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but that's your own journey. So I completely lost my, people are not going to like you. So, but it comes back to them. But when I succeeded, then people liked me even less because I took a risk, and it could have ended really badly. It could have ended so badly to the point where I'd probably be sleeping on somebody's couch right now. Okay, which I have. I've slept in my car, so a couch is an upgrade for me. Okay, I've had to sacrifice for things. There's a saying that if you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes a sacrifice. I've worked 24-hour days. I've worked, in actual fact, I worked as one of those people, a roadie for the Bump CD launch. Okay, I was carrying speakers up and down and moving equipment and sound equipment. If you know me, I'm the laziest guy in the world. If you're walking, if I see somebody and they drop something, I'm not going to help you pick it up. That's your own thing. No, I'm just joking. I actually get a lot of compliments because I help a lot of old people at shopping malls and so on. But I've had to do that. I've worked so hard that on my bathroom break, I've fallen asleep in the toilet. So I know how it feels. So when people say, oh, it's hard and so on, no, I know what hard was, okay? And if you're not pushing yourself and understand, that's why you appreciate it later in life. But when I got to a certain level of success, people didn't like me, they liked me less because it proved one thing to themselves, that they had a dream and they didn't pursue it. And that frustrated the crap out of them because they didn't have an excuse anymore. And when you take away somebody's excuse, what are they? People hold on to the excuses, like they hold on to their failures as a trophy. Oh, I'm too black, I'm too white, I'm too Indian, I'm too fat, I'm too tall, I'm too this, I'm too that. For who? Who are you too much for? So if you are you, because, and I'm never too much for myself. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But then I go back and apologize. Okay. So always apologize, always admit your mistakes. But the people, there's a silly saying, okay? And maybe it's not silly, maybe I'm being a bit mean here. But there's a saying that if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve to appreciate me at my best. Okay, I think this was like a thing between girls when they get dumped by guys or break up with their boyfriends or whatever. So, but it's true. If you can't believe in me at my worst, don't join the ride when I'm at my best. And I also know that, yeah, I might have a level of success today, but I know that as quick as it turned to positivity, it can turn to negativity. I know that. I live under no disillusion that one day everything can disappear. Okay, and I could very much will be sleeping on somebody's couch because I've seen it, life illustrated. But the only reason why that would happen is because I stopped adding value to other people's lives. And if I stop adding value to other people's lives, I deserve to live a life that doesn't add value. And the only way I can get out of that is to add value. Help as many people get what they want. I'll get what I want. That's a byproduct. Other people's, my success is a byproduct of other people's success.
I love that. I absolutely love everything you said because it's so true, right? People see the result, but they don't see the sacrifice. And I think it's human nature. It's human nature for us to fast track people's progress, right? It's like Saj is this age and he's doing this, has this, I want that too. But you don't look at like, where did Saj start and how did he get to this point, right? And how much sacrifice did it take? So Saj, if you were writing a book towards like your 60s, 70s, you're deciding to sit down as an older man. I don't want to say old man because we've got an older audience. And you were like, okay, this is what I've done in my life and this is what I'm proud of. What would you include in your book?
What am I proud of? Can I give you a weird answer for that? I don't think I'm proud of anything, to be honest with you, because pride comes before the fall. I love things. Like I can tell you the things I loved in my life. I love the fact that I was sexually abused as a child when I actually had the courage to tell my parents about it 20 years later. I love that. I love that I had got to that point. I love that I've got a great wife. I love that I love that I get to serve people on the summits. I love that I get to work with amazing people who are aiming for the same vision. I'll look back at those moments. I don't think I'll be proud of it, but I'll look back and say, well, I love those moments. So it's everything, I think but the things that I'll really focus on if I had to write a book is to be completely honest about how things did not work out and let people look at that and go, wow, this person is not so different to who I am. I was in the mall about 2 years ago, and there was this, in the middle of the mall, they have these people, like these pop-up things, and it was a company called Breadline, and it's a donation, it's a charity that you donate every month to help children in Africa to learn how to read. So they get the books, they get all the stuff and teach it. So it's a great initiative. Education is one of my highest values. I don't know whether the money is being used. That's not my concern. If somebody's taking the money, I think they're going to have to deal with Satan down the road. So if when I was speaking to the guy who was helping me was very shocked. Okay, you can feel, they say they don't back the horse, they back the jockey. Like, I had this feeling this guy could be a good jockey. And he was telling me he's working on this, so he's saving up money to develop an app. And he needed about, he needed about $3,000 to get the app up and running. And I said to him, okay, you go buy the Steve Jobs book, $300, okay, $20 or whatever. You go and buy the Steve Jobs book, $20. You read it. I'll take you out for lunch and I'll ask you a few questions. If you can answer those questions, I'll give you the $3,000. You won't have to pay me back. Gave you my phone number, gave you my email address. 2 years later, I haven't heard a single thing. If that doesn't illustrate that there are chances and opportunities, and we are the people that are responsible for that, because, how many times have something fallen on our lap and you're like, ugh, I don't want it on my lap. I want it to go away and I can live in my sorrow. So I talk about those things. I talk about how you are at a birthday party with some of your closest friends and you have to lie and say, you know what, I actually ate lunch before I came. And you're sitting in the restaurant and you say, I actually don't feel like having anything to drink. And you sit there and you drink tap water because you have no money with you. So I know how it feels. And I know that people know how that feels. They feel as well. When you're sitting there and there's people sitting around you and they're eating and you're starving, but you've got to maintain some kind of ego thing. If it happened to me, in actual fact, I let my friends pay for my lunches. Okay. I'm that kind of person. Like, I'm the last person to put my hand and take my credit card out. Okay. If you're gonna put your hand in first, then by all means serve it. The thing. But I will help. Like if I like my cousin, he's a kid. He needed a cell phone. I took him to go get a cell phone. Took him out for lunch. What people need stuff, like my nephew as well. If anybody needs stuff, my mom needed a car, gave the car. People need stuff, I'll help. okay? Because I know that when I dropped the ego and people helped me, I'm only where I am today because of the help of other people. Yes, I know that I've got intestinal fortitude that they say in WWE. I've got that. I know that, and I back myself to win, and I want to win. I don't want to lose because second place is just the first of the losers. I don't want to. I don't want to be second place. I want to win. I have one life. Okay, and there's a saying: champions behave like champions before they're champions. Before I was successful, I had the mindset of a successful person, even before my bank account illustrated it. Okay, my bank account took a while to catch up to my mindset. Okay, and I don't even know how we got down this road, but to tie it up, okay, if I look back and I had to write a book, I would spend less time talking about the good things, and I would spend more time talking about the things that actually served me, that at the time were the most negative, most ugly, most evil situations in my life. To tell people that, hey, if I can go through this and come out on the other side a little bit better, I'm sure you can do as well.
Mm. That's like all of it. Like my mind is just blown. Like I'm like, where do I even take it from here?
Mind blasting.
You are mind blasting, Saj. And I think, you know, for me, from all the situations you've experienced from a child till now, I'm a firm believer that it is our pain that mostly like fortifies that strength that you were speaking about, which, you know, if you manage to survive it and you've got a vision that's greater than yourself, I find that those become my favorite kind of people, because when you don't have and you come into a life of having, when you weren't anything and you come into being something, your gratitude, I find, is so much more like than most people who've never had to struggle, right? Like, because when you're grateful, you're like, I'm grateful. Like you have no idea. Like, and I love the story that you shared about, you know, being with your friends and being in a restaurant and not being able to order food and not be having to drink water, or like, you know, things like that, because I think so many people can relate to that kind of a situation on so many levels, right? And coming out of that, Saj, so I want to just touch on the other side of that. I find that I had to do this for myself. You know, I came from like not having anything at all to having so much. And I found that I struggled to adjust. I struggled to adjust to the having because I was so scared it was going to disappear. So it's like, if I could carry my closet around, I would just like carry it in my hand, like, oh my God, what if I lose everything? Did you ever go through that? And if so, how did you like deal with it or manage it?
So, you know, the thing is that I started, look, I'm not going to say that I'm a genius, but you know, they say a smart person can learn from their mistakes and a genius can learn from mistakes of others. I noticed before, I know it's a long time ago, that people are actually more afraid of success than they are of failure. And more often than not, when somebody grows up in an unstable situation and then they find stability, they'll look to create instability. Okay. And when we look at people who come out of school, who get a good job, they buy a car, they get a house, they buy clothes, they buy this, they buy the big screen TV, it's almost like they're being rewarded for the work, but they're like, okay, thank you, but I'm going to push it somewhere else because I can't deal with it. Okay. And with me, when I was earning like $100 a month, okay, as trying to sell ad space for magazines, I would, out of that $100, I'd still have a budget for the $100. I'd know exactly how much money I was going to save, even if it was $10. I know how much money I was going to put towards food, how much money I was going to put towards petrol, how much money I was going to put towards buying one book. And you might be thinking, oh, $100, where did you go to Exclusive Books or Barnes & Noble and get a book from? No, I went to a pawn shop. I went and bought books that were, you know, like 50 cents. They were torn, they were tattered, but I was torn and tattered. But when you open a torn and tattered book and the words are there, the value in those words transcend any type of appearance. And I thought that, you know what, I want people to believe in me, even though I don't look the part. I believe that I have massive value within me. Why should I discriminate to other things like that? And reading books that were 5 Rand, 50 cents, whatever, I still got more knowledge out of that because I had put aside money for that. And yet today, when I order books, I order 10 books at a time, all brand new, all hardcover, all trying to get some good first edition or whatever. But I didn't start like that. I know where I came from. I know what I had to do, and I incrementally build it up. So today, let's say, for instance, if I want to live a life and I only need 20% of what I earn to live a comfortable life, that 80% is gone. It doesn't exist to me. It's in investments, it's in savings, it's in places that I don't want to touch because I don't need it. You know who will need it? Future Sajen, Sajen's children, Sajen's grandchildren. That's who's going to need it. Right now, I don't need it. So I'm very good with understanding the budget, and I know what my threshold is. I don't have debt. I don't owe a single thing to anybody financially. If I buy something, I pay it off cash. And the reason being is because before I had money, I still had the financial mindset to manage it. And the law of money is that money will always flow to where it is managed the best. So getting too much, going into that thing, I know how it feels. It's very difficult to overcome that at first because you want to go and spoil yourself. You want to go and get rid of it as quick as possible. I had a slight bit of that, but I love and I'm grateful to the fact that the things that I was filling in my mind was helping me to look at something, look at finances long before I even had finances. You can't work a budget out with $1,000. Don't expect to handle $10,000. You can't manage $10,000. How are you going to handle $100,000? Can't handle $100,000. How are you going to expect to handle $1 million? It's all levels. Okay. People want to shoot from $10 to $1 million and they can't even handle $10. You can't do that. It's progression, it's incremental improvement. Okay. And knowing that tomorrow I'm going to be a percentage better than I am today. And holding on to the fact because, yeah, you know what? 10 years ago, after every year, I was getting 5% better. 10 years later, 50% better. Okay. People overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And that's a trap. And that's falling into, I'm going to spend and I'm going to go to a job that I don't like to earn money to spend on things that I don't need in order to impress people that I don't like. Okay. It's a circle. And you know what happens when you live on that threshold? It can go either side. So if you say come to the middle of the month and you have no money and your car tires need to be replaced, or your child has this project in school and they need this whatever to use, that event, it could be the cheapest thing in the world. But when you have zero, $1 is very expensive. And those events get blown out of proportion. And then we start to hate the car and the mechanic and the corruption. And then when I go in to change my tires, they're going to tell me the oil needs replacing and so on. Oh, I'm going to help my child with this. And the schools demand so much from us. Okay. It's all, and all those things are created because things are not being managed. And the only way things can improve, Calvin, Lord Calvin, actually, you have the temperature, Calvin is minus 247 or 273 or whatever. And he said that in order to improve something, first you need to measure it. I know down to the cent how much money I have in my investments right now, because the first thing I check in the morning after I say good morning to my wife and pray and so on, I go and check my bank account. I know everything to do with my finances. I knew how everything was in my finances when I only had $100 in my bank account to what I have right now. Okay, didn't change me. But if I don't know what's there, I don't know how to improve it. Most people don't want to look at their bank accounts. They don't want to look at their banking statements because it scares them. People hate tax season because they think that tax is a bad thing. If you view something as a bad thing, it will be a bad thing. Okay. If you view it as something like, for me, with tax, yes, there are certain ways that I can reduce my tax by expenses and so on ethically. Okay. But I also understand, yeah, you know what? It's life. You're never going to escape it. Why would I run away from something that I'm never going to escape? In actual fact, I pay my taxes with a smile because I'm contributing to the economy. And yes, you might say, oh, but I'm contributing to the economy. I don't see it. There are potholes everywhere and people, the government uses my money and they don't. Then yeah, that's fine. You can have that kind of, mindset with it. But if you believe that everybody is after your money, I can guarantee that you will people into your life that are after your money. And when they take your money, the only person that you prove right is yourself. Rather prove yourself right with positive things than with negative things. Comes back to what I said. E plus R equals O. The event plus the response equals the outcome. When I was broke, I responded in a responsible way to understand that I might not have the finances, but I can have a financial mindset. What is the outcome? The day I started to get money in, I managed it and I grew it. Wealth is my highest value. It bumped education and learning. Okay. But do I extravagantly spend? No. Am I a stingy person? No. It's a tool, as Richard says. So, and a funny thing, it's kind of like a game as well. So like, I look at that and it's like a game for me sometimes, but it's a fun game to play.
I love it. I love it, Saj. We are coming to the end of the interview. I've got two final questions for you. First one is, what is real success to you?
I answered this the other day. I said that, actually, I'll find it. Where is this? I actually wrote it down. Success. Okay. Well, there we go. Jump to context, view context. This is actually reading all the dumb stuff that I said. Real success for me is, I can't even remember what I wrote, but I wanted to get it word for word. But basically, for me, real success is when you win. Real success is a type of success that you're not the only person that wins from it. So, if you're successful, yes, you can be successful, okay, and you can be successful and not worry about other people. But real success comes in that nobody loses in that situation. Just because somebody has something more than you doesn't mean that you have something less. Okay, that's a scarcity mindset. So real success is a type of success where there's no such thing as losing because everybody wins from it.
Oh, I love that definition. And the final question is, what is something about you that we will never find on Google?
There's a couple things. The one thing is that most people don't know. So if you're joining in from anywhere in the world, if you don't know, I'm based in South Africa, and I am a huge WWE fan. I love wrestling. I love worldwide the WWF, and it was called. In actual fact, I used to wrestle with pillows and do pedigrees to my cousin. And one day we actually had to rush into a hospital because we were trying tombstones and all that stuff. But I ended up working with a wrestling organization in South Africa. And they needed, because I'm a good storyteller, they needed somebody to help them with the storylines for the wrestlers and so on. And I went in to go help. And the tag team champions of the South African wrestling, they were bad guys. And the bad teams always have one thing in common. They have a manager. They have a consigliere that walks to the stage, that has the belts and all that stuff. So we do an event in Ventersdorp. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ventersdorp is not the best place for a brown man to go. So I played the role of the manager of the tag team champions of South African wrestling. And I was on the microphone. And my stage name was Corbin Gold because I applied the gold stamp to my wrestlers. And I remember people threw ice, they threw food, someone threw a can of beer at me because they believed in the character so much. In actual fact, I changed the whole script. I was in the mic. The guy who owned the corporation, his name was Ananzi, and I went in the mic and said, because my tag team guys were going to win. Because everything's scripted, so they were going to win. And I said, Ananzi, if my guys win, then you have to sign over the wrestling organization to me, and we're going to sign this contract. And all the people like booing. I was like, no, don't do this. Don't sign it over to him. He's evil. So that was one thing that you'll never find on Google, was that for one wrestling event, I was the manager of the tag team champions of the South African Wrestling Organization.
Oh God, I actually I can see it in my head. It's
walked with a
practically
suit,
clear.
and it was and the music was that, I think it's El Carmen or whatever, that dun 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 dun. And I walked out there, and it's like the smoke. It's like dun 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 dun. So that was like,
oh my God, my cheeks are so sore from just laughing and trying not to get that on the mic. I'm like, that's great. Saj, it has been an honor and a privilege to get to spend this time with you. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks.
I absolutely adore Saj. We are not just co-workers, but we are friends. And everything he shared, so much of it is stuff that I just discovered. And I hope you guys got as much value as I did. If you love this conversation with Saj, then you're going to love the conversation I had with John Tellerico. So until next time, it has been an honor to serve you, and I'll see you next week.